Hey everybody, it's Captain Kyle and welcome to this special Transformers video. I have one correction and a couple follow-ups that you might be interested in. We're going to do a correction on this guy who I just recently reviewed, and then a few others it's been a while, but got some information for you that you might appreciate. Be right back. So first things first, we have our Frankentron. And I complained because when I transformed him, I couldn't attach this like a cannon. Well, it was my bad. And it had been a while since I had transformed Impactor. And so I had misaligned the arms, the forearms of this guy. So I couldn't actually put it in its proper setup with the cannon shooting out electricity. So I'm going to show you the proper way. And the thing is, I took the arms, and when I transformed him and swung the arms under, I should have had the silver bits on the outside. I didn't. That was my bad. I was doing it very quickly. And actually, this is leading me to change my policy. Normally, I would open up a brand new toy on camera, but now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to basically, if I have a toy that I've not encountered before, unless it's like a repaint of something, I am going to open it up first, go through it, make sure that I have everything perfectly right for you guys before I actually hit record and start recording a review. But now, having discovered that error on my part, just to show you, there is a peg inside the tank on either side that you can attach this cannon to, and then you can actually put it as it's shown on the box, which is cool. I'm glad that was figured out. Actually, someone commented. It was Pat Geta 2678 that basically pointed out my error, which I appreciate because I am human and things happen. But now that I have them swiveled in the right direction, we can put the cannon on. So the cannon actually plugs in on both pegs to the second post. This falls off way too easy. Right after the green piece. Has nothing to do with green piece. So that gets that correction out of the way, and I hope that if that confused you, well, I hope that clears up any confusion. So that's the first thing, but now we have some add-ons. Now, one thing I would like to talk about is Menasor, if you remember this guy. He is one big guy. And one thing I was concerned about is a piece left over. Now, I knew you could take the gun off the piece, this turret, and you can put it in his hand. You can actually set it up so that he's using it. If you have it in his hand, what do you do with this? Well, it was suggested that it goes on his back as a backpack or a jetpack, and I couldn't figure out quite the way to do it that way, but I did figure out a way, and you can let me know if you have an alternative way of doing this. But if you spread this baby out, you can even take the little stand and put it straight up, and you can plug it into his back, and like Red Bull, he now has wings. So he believes he can fly. Okay, so anyway, that is something that you can do with the turret if you're keeping him in his merged mode on your shelf. One, this way you won't lose it, and two, it kind of adds a little bit to it. If you don't like the wings, you don't have to, you can just put the turret aside. But I thought it was a neat idea. I don't know, there might be some other ways to attach this to his back. If you have any others, let me know, because I would love to hear about them. But that is a little extra for you. Now, revisiting robots that merge together, you might remember this guy. He is big, he is huge. The Demon Knight Defensor. And you might recall that he's got two massive guns, which is very cool. Now, the interesting thing is, in some of the pictures, when you look at this guy, he has these merged together into one, which is cool. And I've checked some other reviews out, and nobody seems to have that part in their review. So I'm going to show you how you can take these two guns and make them into one big one. So the interesting thing is these split open at the front. Right there, there's a nice little swivel, so you can open one up. It's got little pegs, and you can make this into a giant handle. This part, take the handle and push it back so this little post is sticking up. Now it's a little tight, so you might have to wiggle it a little bit. But if you then take this and kind of wiggle it into this slot, you wiggle it in, and then you push it in. Works easier the other way, I think. For some reason it only works one way, so you might have to play a little, but then it merges into this giant gun, locked in pretty nice and tight. Easy enough to take apart again. But now you can take this big guy, take one of his arms, plug in the gun, and if you want to, you can do like in the picture, swivel the gun a little bit, and put the other hand underneath to hold it on the bottom. He can then look pretty badass. Oh, though it doesn't balance that well on his hand. But he can look pretty badass with a really big gun. Or you can just wield it in one hand. Though I have to say it's pretty heavy, so it does have a tendency to dip. Personally, I always liked my Defensor to have the two guns. But if you like the bigger weapon, there it goes. I'm gonna leave it to you to figure out the best way to balance it, because it is heavy. That kind of works. You can't really plug the handle into his hand to hold it securely if you're holding it like this, but if you just want to pose him with a huge gun, there you go. So that is the Demon Knight Defensor weapon combination, which I can't find in the instructions, which are basically a QR code on the box and you watch videos, which is nice, but it would be nice to show this. So now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Wait, that's G.I. Joe. Shit. And finally, the last thing I want to revisit is this guy. Now, a lot of people, when I reviewed this counterfeit Metroplex, took a look at it and were like, oh, it's too tan on one side. And I'm gonna not disagree that the tan is a bit pronounced. And the styrofoam can kind of be a bitch sometimes to get this guy out of. But if you'll recall from this, a lot of people were like, oh, it's very tan over here, it should all be white. Now, first of all, that's not entirely true. There were two versions of this toy put out. One had the rubber wheels, like this one, and the other one had plastic wheels. I think the plastic wheeled one might have been more white, but I went out at my own expense, and this is a G1 original Metroplex, and as you can see, it does have tan. Now the tan, it looks about the same looking at it under this light. So really, there's no real difference between these guys as far as it being accurate to the original being like off-white tan and white. However, there were some issues with like attaching this on the back. Actually, this is an original one. It doesn't seem as bad, but the reissue one was kind of loose. So here's what you can do, and this is totally up to you, but you can take this guy, put him aside. If you pick up, and this was like 40 bucks, a incomplete Metroplex body, and there's plenty out there. I mean, when you're trying to put one together, you know, the pieces, the accessories are really, really the expensive part. There's plenty of bodies. This one, actually, as it is real, doesn't have the stuck car launcher, which the counterfeit one does. So you can actually launch cars out of here and clean it up a little bit. And the accessories fit in fine. Now this came with kneecaps. I'll keep those kneecaps on there, but I'll add the fists. Now the only bad part, putting the fists on the counterfeit worked fine. Putting the fists on this one, for some reason, they're a little loose. So there are ways you can mix and match. You can, if you want, to use a little clear nail polish on the fists so they don't fall out. You can give him his shoulder guns. You can pretty much turn this into a regular G1 Metroplex with a little modification. Or if I swap the one part, I can still probably get 40 bucks for this, sell it off, and just add stickers to this, because the only issues that he had really was the looseness of the back piece and concern about the tanning, which, again, side by side, you decide which one is actually tanner. They look pretty close to me. This one might be slightly tanner, but it's not from sun. It's just the way they were if you got the rubber wheeled model. That I am 98% sure. The plastic wheeled one, I think, was more white. But just wanted to show you what an original G1 Metroplex looks like next to the counterfeit, and it cost me 40 bucks. It's not a big deal, and I can resell this probably for the same. Pass it on. The only bad part about not being able to switch everything over is I gotta put the stickers on, which I'm not a big sticker fan, but that's the situation. If you were concerned about the tan, this guy is like the original rubber wheeled one. And I will put links to this guy, again, in the description, plus the Demon Knight, if you wanna get one and combine the guns. And of course, we had the correction with Frankentron. and something interesting to do with your Metroplex. So I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know how many of these I'm going to do, but from time to time I may revisit some of the things I've reviewed and add some stuff or correct some stuff. Probably won't do another apology video unless I do something really, really stupid. Anyways, I hope you're enjoying these videos as much as I enjoy making them. And if you want to see the original Metroplex review, it's right over here. We will see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.